Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all around the world, crypto and blockchain globally. And welcome to season 9. I had a couple months off over the summer, but I'm back and we're ready to go for the next new season, which is amazing. And I have to kick things off. I have an amazing guest. He is the executive chairman at Luxfolio Capital Holdings. His name is Zayn Kalyan. Zayn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamil, for having me and excited to kick off season 9 here. Happy to be the first guest.
I'm excited and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So let's let me ask you first. The first question I ask everybody, got amazing answers, is what is your background and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, appreciate that. So I started my career as a software engineer. I founded a fintech company in 2012. Fortunately, I was able to exit that fintech company in 2017 or late 2017. And the interesting thing is that gave me a lot of exposure to obviously fintech. I worked inside our software was deployed at a number of banks around the world. It really kind of gave me a lot of conviction in crypto, obviously, kind of seeing how these archaic institutions operate and how the existing banking system operates. And I think that's probably the foundation for why I believe so much in digital assets and the opportunity that blockchain and cryptocurrency provide to humanity as a whole. We in our office in Vancouver in 2014, I was reading a New York Times article about Bitcoin. And that was my first exposure to digital assets. And we had a pretty powerful computer sitting there. So I just said, oh, well, whatever. I figured it out. I set up Slosh's pool and I started mining. And I ran that computer for about 2.5, 3 weeks. Maybe it's a little bit longer than that. And I came back and there was zero point 0.8 of a Bitcoin there. And unfortunately, I needed the computer for something else, and I shut it off because I didn't really think much about it, and I should have kept it running for a much longer time. But I still have that same zero point 0.8 of a Bitcoin to this day. Yeah, that was kind of my first exposure really to the space. As the price of Bitcoin started moving in 2017, I came back to it. I was fortunate to be involved in one of the early fiat on-ramp exchanges in Canada. And we Unfortunately, I was fortunate and unfortunate. I was fortunate that I was able to kind of help build it and be there at the ground floor, but I was unfortunate in that the market kind of turned over in 2018 and we ended up having to sell some of the assets just because we couldn't launch it ourselves and the price compression was too high and it was what it was. But in the end, I think I've been very active in the space since then. After exiting my company in 2017, I just kind of started personally investing and have had a fair amount of success in the crypto space as well as just the general tech space. So yeah, really that's kind of my background, my foundation. Currently to this day, I'm a partner at Altus Capital Partners. I'm also the CEO of a small investment fund called Hummingbird. We're exclusively invest in digital assets. If I had to say that our investment thesis is it's kind of following the next meta and kind of rolling our foundation, our capital over into the next meta. And then Luxfolio is a digital asset treasury company that we started. We actually took over an existing vehicle in February, March of this year, restructured it, recapitalized it, put it really back together, and have we built the first Litecoin treasury company. I think, yeah, that's basically the where we're at today.
Awesome. So yes, I want to find out more about, about your conviction. I want to find out more about Luxfolio. I think it's awesome that you're the first Litecoin treasury company. I've been a Litecoin holder since 2018. And yeah, so I want to find out what Luxfolio is all about, including your vision and your mission, the reason why it came about, and what you see for the future.
Yeah, so Litecoin Summit 2024, which was right before the Bitcoin conference 2025 or 2024 in Nashville. My partner and I were at the Litecoin Summit, and it was the first one we attended. But my business partner had been to a lot of the early Bitcoin conferences. I'd been going to Bitcoin conferences since 2017. He'd been going since probably early 2014. But we both got that really interesting feeling of like it felt like those early days where you had that original cypherpunk kind of ethos and mentality. Like these were true builders, people who really believed in the network and the community. You didn't have this, we'll call it, high level of tourism and hype that's been built around kind of all the Bitcoin conferences. And it has really changed. And that's not to say like we're still very supportive of Bitcoin, both of us. Like I think at our heart, like I'm still very long Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is core to it still is um the core asset. Like I think it is truly digital gold. But I think we were that feeling and seeing the opportunity of Litecoin and how the value proposition that it presents as a rail for payments or as a call it store of value that can actually be used in daily transactions. That was really what got us excited. So, and then when we looked at kind of how it had been trading and the fact that you have this evangelist in Charlie Lee, who's the original founder, who still supports it and is very involved, all of those things really checked a lot of boxes for us. And then when we started to look at the numbers, and you start to look at the BitPay numbers and how it is the number one used cryptocurrency on BitPay, and it has all these characteristics that align it with Bitcoin at the same time. It made so much sense for us to be the asset that we would get behind. And we've been looking at doing a digital asset treasury, both Steezy and myself. We have and our CEO Tomic, the three of us, we all had kind of a lot of conviction and a lot of experience working with public companies in Canada. And we saw this kind of opportunity to put together a treasury company. And yeah, that led us to found taking over Luxfolio and putting that together, and then really going full into sorry, really going full into Litecoin and building the first treasury company. So that was March of this year. We're very fortunate to have direct support of the foundation and Charlie Lee and David Schwartz, both of whom have been instrumental in kind of helping us get to where we are today. I think we're still very small comparatively to a lot of other DATs, but we're at this inflection point where we have some things in the works that I think are going to take things to the next level, really help us expand rapidly. And then two, work towards getting a US listing early next year, which I think will allow us to really scale even beyond that. So, and in terms of numbers, our goal is 100,000 Litecoin by the end of this year and to be in our treasury, and then 1 million Litecoin by the end of next year. And those are goals, but we do see that there is a path forward for us to be able to achieve those, and we're going to work through those pretty aggressively.
Awesome, awesome. So you mentioned before Altus Capital, right? And so you're looking at the venture capital landscape. And the ironic thing I think about Litecoin is that it had a fair launch. So my motto has been VC not needed.
Yeah.
So how do what is your plan with these treasury companies? I see a lot of Bitcoin treasury companies, a lot of Ethereum treasury companies are, to me it's a holder, but it's a much larger holder at scale. But what can they actually do? Like MicroStrategy could offer more shares of MicroStrategy, but what besides that can these treasury companies do to build the VC landscape globally?
Yeah, so we took a very, call it, different approach than maybe a lot of the other treasury companies from the outset, in that our perspective of how these debts, especially kind of the early ones in, call it, assets like Litecoin or Dogecoin or things that are a little bit not, call it, the mainstream Ethereum and Bitcoin debts, is the biggest opportunity that we present, especially if we compare it to ETFs and other things, or even just what I think should be like, is being banks and treasuries for the community. Our goal is to foster adoption and support the community to drive adoption. I feel very almost hypocritical, and I often say this about running a digital asset company, a digital asset treasury company, because I almost feel that DATs are completely at odds with the basic ethos of cryptocurrency. Like we're huge proponents of decentralization. I believe that everyone should have their own self-custody wallet. I believe that is like that's the goal. The perfect world is where everyone's using a self-custody wallet for all their day-to-day payments. And I think that USDC and stablecoin adoption present a great opportunity for that to actually become a reality. There is concern that you're going to start to see fintech companies kind of corrupt that by, call it, Web2 fintech companies start to corrupt that by by creating, call it centralized wallets or building wallets that are not truly self-custody insight into their applications that allow people to interact with stablecoins. But I do think that even that is a stepping stone to actually having everything on the blockchain and eventually getting to this world where everyone truly does own their own money, and have their own keys and your own keys, your own money. And I think that's the core goal. So that hypocrisy aside and that level of kind of feeling of imposter syndrome, the one thing I would the counterpoint to that is our goal and the place that these dApps hold is to drive adoption, is to get us from A to B. And I think that we can do that effectively, as long as we maintain our core values, as long as the way that we operate is to actually promote those core values to the community. And as a treasury and a bank, what I mean by that is our goal is to really invest in builders in Litecoin. So we have the treasury, we need to generate the yield on it to give a return to our investors. Ultimately, that is kind of core to what we're doing. But at the same time, we can invest in the community, we can foster growth, we can help build. Like, we're building tools and building a stablecoin product internally. We have that capacity, and then beyond that, we do have the intention to start a smaller scale and maybe that becomes even larger mining operation, which I think is just logical. Like, our goal should be to be supporters of the network, and what better way to be a supporter of the network than to be actually confirming blocks and doing that. So that's kind of our whole overarching goal, and that's the way we obviously justify a multiple to NAV. But I think two is that, like, it's almost a two-part thing. We have to generate a yield. We have to be creative in how we do so. We want to be actively we want to be actively mining. We want to be actively building this technology that we can eventually profit from. But two is just being a general supporter of the community and really fostering adoption of Litecoin is the core focus.
I like the core focus. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I went to that Litecoin summit in Nashville in 2024,
Yeah.
and then I had to go to the next one. I believe I did sponsor it, the one. But when you talk about stable coins, a lot of people, that's the hype word right now, is stable coins. And I think there needs to be. I mean, what do you see as the opportunity within? To me, as an investor who speculates, a stable coin sounds kind of boring, right? But what are the opportunities for stable coins that aren't so boring?
Well, I think I look at stablecoins should be boring. Like, the funny thing about stablecoins is it's probably the first time that I've ever actually used, maybe the second time that I've actually ever used cryptocurrency for sorry, my dog is barking there. It's the first time that I've used cryptocurrency for a use case that had nothing to do with the digital asset space. I used it to make a general investment in something else, something completely unrelated. It was an energy investment, and that or commodity investment, and that I just found that very interesting because, like, that's how you get mainstream adoption. Is you get mainstream adoption by actually having people use it for real world payments and things that are not unrelated to digital assets. And I think that's one of the, call it, things that we've seen in cryptos. You've seen these seasons of speculation. You had NFTs, you had meme tokens, you had DeFi summer, you had all these things that have consistently just seen us creating speculation and effectively what I'll call gambling in the cryptocurrency space. And that's not to say, like, I traded meme tokens. I did do a lot of DeFi stuff. I own a lot of NFTs, like all of those things collectively. Like, that's not to say that they're all bad, but they're all very isolated and siloed inside the cryptocurrency community. And stablecoins are this first thing where you're actually seeing people use stablecoins to pay for cross-border payments for goods and services completely unrelated to the digital asset space. So yeah, it's hard. They should be boring. This is kind of where it actually kind of reinforces our conviction in Litecoin, is because stablecoins are a great driver of adoption of blockchain technology and crypto, but they're still fiat based. They're still underlying by fiat, and that's where Litecoin really fits in. Is that if you have a populace that is very versed in using digital assets, namely USDC, in call it their day-to-day commerce, if you can parlay that into them understanding, okay, they don't need to be using fiat currency. They could be using something that is more of a true store of value like Litecoin that can be used for payments on a day-to-day basis. And that really is kind of where we see everything going.
Got it. The other thing I think that's not so boring is the energy and commodities area, right?
Yeah.
That I did an interview at the summit. I moderated the panel on mining, right? So what opportunities do you see, in this mining area, and the commodities area for Litecoin going forward that people aren't necessarily don't know yet, but they will?
Yeah, like I think investments and I think commodities and energy, like obviously the concept of digital asset mining as creating portable power or call it portable. I don't love the word portable, but basically um, how would I put that? But yeah, let's just call it portable power. I think there is a huge opportunity there, and I think that especially in the DAT space, um, you've seen a lot of pure play DATs and they just hold cash. But there is this kind of new move where people need to generate a yield. They need to figure out how to scale. And I think mining is a logical way to do that. Like I think you're going to start to see a lot of these DATs across the spectrum, whether they're in Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You're going to see a lot more focus on mining as a business that they adopt because it's the perfect way to augment their treasury strategy. Like their goal is to accumulate as much Bitcoin or as much Litecoin as they possibly can. The best way to do that is to do it at a discount to what it costs in the market to buy it, and the best way to do that is to mine it.
So let's go back and talk about that investment mandate. Mine is asymmetry. Okay, when I see a massive opportunity and things working well, like Litecoin's worked well, and I see a price that's not gone up compared to
I
Bitcoin.
hear you. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, it's been tough to watch, right? Like I think if we're convicted and we believe it will, the price will diverge, and I think the value per transaction of Litecoin is not reflected in the market cap of the market today. So we're getting there, though. I think it's just people need to wake up. People need to see the opportunity with Litecoin. People need to see that it is being used, and I think you will start to see the price move. But it's just and it just needs that one inflection point where I think adoption starts to change and people start to realize the opportunity. And I think we're getting there, but at the same time, Litecoin's obviously had a lot of staying power. It is call it one of the original, if not the original altcoin. And it's maintained that legacy for so long.
do you think that inflection point might be, and they keep delaying, the SEC keeps delaying it, the approval of this ETFs that have been filed? What do you see in this as a state of the ETF segment? What's it going to take to kick the SEC's butt into gear? What do you see coming through?
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think it's somewhat bittersweet for us that because I think you're going to see all these ETFs get approved here all at the same time, which is a little bit frustrating. Because Litecoin, it's ironic that if there hadn't been these massive changes at the SEC, the Litecoin ETF probably wouldn't have been approved 6 months ago. But it just kind of got grouped in with approval of everything, which is fine. Like at the end of the day, I'm about adoption of digital assets. I'm not going to pick one I'm not. I'm very convicted in Litecoin, but I think it's good for the industry as a whole to have this general adoption of digital assets and for the SEC to finally adopt an approach to them that is actually progressive, I think is awesome. So, but yeah, I think it's any day now. I think October is our month, and I think you're going to start to see a lot of movement. And I think to your point, like I think the deluge of ETF approvals in October will be good for the market as a whole because you're going to start to see this massive inflow across the entire segment, and it'll be great for Litecoin. It'll be great for all the other tokens as well. So
Awesome. So I want to talk. I want to this past summer, I had a couple months off from podcasting. I got the opportunity to watch some other podcaster shows. One of the podcaster shows I watch, and I don't really mention other podcasters on my show, but I'm going to. I watched the Wolf of All Streets.
Okay.
Scott Milker. He interviewed Charlie
Yeah.
Lee. Charlie Lee claimed to be a Bitcoin maximalist, or says, and downplays Litecoin a little bit. Do you think he should be out there promoting Litecoin more than he is, or do you think he should be downplaying it still? What are your views on that approach?
No, I think that I think that at our hearts, I think everyone's still true people in the space are all Bitcoin maximalists at the end of the day. But I don't think I don't love the Bitcoin maximalist definition, right? I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I believe in a diaspora or a diverse set of investments and tokens. I think all of these things, adoption to blockchain technology does not need to be exclusive. We don't just need Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has a lot of challenges when it comes to being used for day-to-day payments and for commerce, but that's the same thing as saying I can't take a bar of gold and go downstairs to buy my coffee. It's not practical, right? But that's not to say that I don't want to hold gold as a store of value to protect myself against inflation and fiat currency. So I think all of those things are I think there's a place for all of them. And I think Bitcoin is, let's just call Bitcoin gold. And I would say the Litecoin is more it's the common people. I'm not the only one to say this. Everyone says this, that Bitcoin or Litecoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold. But I think Litecoin could even well, you have to look at that in the context of silver actually used to be used to buy things, and that's where Litecoin has an opportunity. Is it's a hedge against fiat currency that you can actually use in commerce, and that's the opportunity. Is that it's not even practical for me to go downstairs and use a coin of silver to buy coffee, but it could be practical for me to go downstairs and use Litecoin to buy coffee.
Whenever I go to my son's regatta events, and I talk to the people selling merchandise, I was like, "You accept Litecoin yet?" And they're
Yeah,
like,
it's
"No,
coming.
no, it's coming."
It's
So
coming.
to get the retail there, to get the retail over the hump, so that it does come. What
Yeah.
else do you think is needed at this time to be able to get them
Well,
there?
I think the adoption of USDC is there. I went to my local coffee shop the other day and actually paid for a coffee with USDC. They had a little QR code on their Square terminal that you could just scan and pay with USDC, and that was the first time I'd seen that, and I thought that was so cool. But I think that that's coming. I think that that's actually the next, you're going to see that is the first stage of where things actually start to snowball. And I think the things that are happening with the Genius Act are very good. I do have some concerns, primarily the fact that the yield within the Genius Act, the yield can't be shared with holders. I think that will be the turning point in everything, is when the issuers of stablecoins can share the yield that they generate on the US treasuries they hold or the underlying assets they hold with their holders in a fully legal framework. You've basically upset the entire banking system. You've created a reason that I don't need to hold my savings or let's just say my checking account in a bank account at Wells Fargo or Bank of America or wherever at Citibank. I can put all of my money in a stable coin and I actually earn a higher yield no matter if I have $100 in that account or $1 million in that account. I'll make the same amount of yield. And I think that in itself is a great opportunity because that really does upset the current status quo. But more importantly, it actually creates a decentralized system of money. And you truly do own your own money. It's not a bank that's taken your $100,000 and leveraged it 9x. And if that bank collapses, the government's responsible for bailing you out. That system, the fractional bank reserve banking system, I think it's archaic. It has lots of trouble. It has lots of issues with it. And I think that stable coins will be the first step of changing that. But what I don't think people also realize the implication of that too is that it also will challenge fiat currency at its root, and that's where the opportunity for proof of work tokens like Litecoin presents an opportunity where people will use USDC for they'll get paid in USDC. They'll use USDC to buy their goods and services, but maybe they do want to set some of that aside into something that's not fiat currency, that has a little bit, that is kind of a more long-term value, is more of a store of value, is not attached to all of the other things that come with fiat currency, and that will allow them to also interact in that token as well.
Awesome. So we talked about speculation, and you said that you NFTs, and earlier you said the word meme. A couple of the important meme coins that support the Litecoin network are Bellis Coin and Doge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you see a Dogecoin or a Bellis Coin treasury coming down the pike? And if it did, how would it support the Litecoin?
Yeah, there's already a Doge one out there. I think it's called House of Doge. It's pretty big. Um, yeah, like we're as I said, I'm supportive of all of it. I just think that the token economics of Dogecoin, endless supply, kind of work at odds with the value of what Bitcoin and Litecoin present. So yeah, I'd just say like I'm supportive of Dogecoin, but I think Litecoin definitely has a lot more going for it. But that's what I wanted. But I'd say all of those collectively, that presents a really great value proposition as compared to Bitcoin, in that once all of the Litecoins are mined, you have these tail emissions that will go on forever with merge mining. So there is the miners will continue to be able to continue to actually generate some profit from the other tokens that they'll continue to generate, not just the transaction fees. And that's pretty interesting, because that is one of the core, call it, criticisms or challenges that Bitcoin arguably faces.
Yeah, I agree. There are some challenges, but I like the concept that you said that Litecoin and stablecoins have the opportunity to completely transform the fractional, or not kill, but destroy, but like transform the fractional banking infrastructure. You know, so I think all over the weekend, I think JP Morgan had some kind of announcement. I don't follow what JP Morgan does all the time, but like where they are going to be offering stable coins through their banking system. So you have plans to talk to banks and to be able to for them to offer Litecoin to their customers.
Yeah, so like the Genius Act, like the Genius Act is going to drive adoption of stablecoins, but the core problem is that like Circle makes all the money, or Tether makes all the money. Like you have Tether is the most profitable business per employee in the world. Like these companies get to keep everything. Like you've just created almost worse than a bank at that point. It's better than a bank in a lot of ways, but because it's not leveraged. It's what we'd call a narrow bank, because it's an unleveraged bank. But the problem is that the bank has almost no overhead, because the bank doesn't actually have any business, and they get to keep all the yield. What will change, I think, is that sharing of the yield will give the value proposition of why I would put my money all in USDC versus open an account with JP Morgan, because I'm going to be able to actually generate a yield. But you make a good point. Like JP Morgan is going to start to offer stablecoins, and the funny thing is in that account, JP Morgan is just going to get to keep all the yield, because they're going to cut some deal with Circle to be able to get the yield for it. Already happens with Coinbase. Coinbase earns a huge amount of money for doing that. For driving adoption of USDC. But I think, yeah, like it's all good, because it just drives awareness and people will start to buy it. It'll help everything. And yeah, I think you will see that. I think you will see the JP Morgans and the Citibanks and all the banks start to look at allowing you. It's already legal now. The CFTC has already said it, and the SEC, I think, now, that you can actually hold, like, there's no issue with them providing you the ability to hold Bitcoin or Litecoin in your bank account, or them to be a custodian for you. So I think that it's logical that will come.
Awesome, awesome. So I have a couple of last questions. One is, what do you hear this word all the time called alt season? Some people say it's coming in October. Some people have a more conservative approach, say it's coming in the winter. What do you see coming down the pike for the next half a year? What excites you?
Yeah, I'm pretty hopeful. I think ETF, the ETF market or the ETF approvals will drive some hype, and I think that'll probably snowball. I have some concerns about the general market as a whole, like call it the S&P and the Dow just as a whole, and I think the stock market's quite hot right now, and I I do have concerns that you will see a correction in the near future. But that's not to say either the benefit to that is I think actually crypto will be the beneficiary of that. I think that with that correction, you'll see a lot of turnover of assets into crypto. And I think you'll start this alt season will continue. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish in that respect.
Awesome. I want to thank you very much for your time today. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I wish you very all the success, because your success is my success. So,
Great. No, I
but
appreciate that.
I have yeah. So thank you, and yeah. Is there anything else? Any last message for our listeners that you'd like to say?
No, I think just really appreciate the time, Jamil. Really encourage everyone to go look up Luxfolio, look at the things that we're doing. You can find us Luxfolio. Our ticker is LUXFF in the US on the OTCQB and LUXX in Canada. And yeah, please feel free to reach out. You can find us on our website, luxfolio.com. And again, really appreciate the time today.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Jamil.